The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Psychedelic Reporters for this Tuesday, the 9th of January, here on NOK Network, the video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being replaced in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys in Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario, for the awesome Into Track, originally recorded by the Moody Blues, with some customized changes for our show. I am joined by my amazing joint host, Tarra Simpson, along with the one and only Buffalo Alvarius, who has chosen all stories for us.
Well, hello, Hobbies. Hello, everyone. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufo. He is the Sonoran desert toad or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? Well, park rangers would like to remind everyone, please do not lick the toad. And now for our top stories in psychedelic news.
Oh man, I love the toad. I love the toad. The toad. Okay, so it looks like this one comes right from Marijuana Moment. DEA confirms that psychedelic mushroom spores are federally legal prior to germination, by Kyle Yeager. Whoops. Right, hold on. Let's get this here. Come on, you little bugger.
It's funny when those pop up on the screen. I know you're controlling it, but I still try to close them.
Well, it's the computer just freezes at this moment all of a sudden, and it's like, yeah.
It's got a mind of its own.
This is where I say witty humor to keep it entertaining, so I'm not throwing the keyboard.
Again. And they won't call you because you just told me they won't call you.
All right, back. All right, top drug enforcement. Are you back? Am I back?
Yeah, I'm just in the middle of trying to deal with something.
Yeah, I got it. I'll read. Top Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, has affirmed that spores that produce the so-called magic mushrooms are not on their own federally prohibited. DEA's Drug and Chemical Evaluation Section Chief Terrence Booz was asked about the legal status of the spores in a letter from attorney Michael McGuire in November, and he sent a response on Tuesday that clarified the agency's position. If the mushroom spores do not contain psilocybin or psilocin or any controlled substance or listed chemical, the material is considered not controlled substances Act, CSA Booze wrote. Okay. However, if at any time the material contains a controlled substance such as psilocybin or psilocin, the material would be considered a controlled substance under CSA, he said. As Kite on Cannabis first reported. This isn't especially revelatory, as it's been understood that the CSA doesn't explicitly ban spores that can be used to produce so-called magic mushrooms. Rather, it lists the key psychoactive ingredients in psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin, and psilocin as Schedule 1 controlled substances. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just trying to find where you left off.
Okay, right here on the because the spores.
Oh, because the spores themselves don't contain those specific compounds, they are uncontrolled under the CSA. However, it should be noted that while the spores are technically considered federally legal, as long as someone doesn't use them to produce mushrooms that contain psilocybin or psilocybin, such as states such as California, Georgia, and Idaho do prohibit the spores themselves. The DEA letter still marks an important clarification. As attorney Rod Knight points out, police have still arrested people for selling or utilizing spore kits, but it's possible that it could be connected to a different question of whether the kits are considered drug paraphernalia, which may depend on how spore kits are marketed or used, he wrote.
In short, this newest DEA letter is a positive clarification of a long debated issue. However, it does not necessarily open the doors to widespread use and sale of sport kits, Kite said. At a minimum, buyers and sellers should understand the legal issues with the lawyer and act accordingly. The spore versus mushroom question mirrors another DEA paradox that was addressed in separate earlier letters from Booze. While marijuana is federally prohibited, the seeds that produce that plant are not, as long as they do not contain 0.3% THC by dry weight. If the seeds fall under the threshold, they are considered federally illegal hemp under the definition set out to 2018 Farm Bill that legalized the non-intoxicating group. Booze made that distinction in a letter to attorney Shane Pennington in January 2022. Oops.
Meanwhile, the DEA officially issued another relevant administrative interpretation of cannabis statute last year when he asserted that the agency considered the intoxicating cannabinoid delta 8 THC is an illicit Schedule 1 drug if synthesized from federally legal CBD. Delta 8 THC products have proliferated the market since hemp's legalization essentially existed in an unregulated legal gray area. If the cannabinoid is naturally extracted from hemp, it's federally legal, but it's generally considered common practice to synthesize it from CBD because it's a more cost-effective process. Some states have taken steps to restrict Delta 8 THC, however. At DEA's 2023 Supply Chain Conference in May, Booze similarly explained that synthetic cannabinoids are banned, and he said that the DEA is in the process of developing a final rule to formally clarify that policy at the recommendation of the U.S. Health Department and Human Services.
Booz also told a lawyer last year that the minor cannabinoids Delta 8 THC and Delta 9 THCO are prohibited because they can only be synthetically produced. Some experts have disputed DEA's interpretation of the statute intoxicating hemp-based cannabinoids. However, and a federal spreads court ruled in 2022 that the way existing rules are written makes Delta 8 THC exempt from control, as the law is silent on the minor cannabinoid, while clearly legalizing hemp extract and derivatives. The letter of the psychedelic mushroom spores come after a federal panel denied a motion for lawyers for a Washington state doctor trying to reschedule psilocybin under the CSA. In an order last month, a 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals of Ninth Circuit rejected the doctor's request for rehearsing of an earlier court decision that returned the matter to DEA. Oops.
DEA recently announced that it is taking another shot at banning 2 psychedelics after abandoning its original scheduling proposal in 2022, teeing up for another fight with researchers and advocates who say the compounds hold therapeutic potential. The agency separately backed down from a proposal to ban 5 different tryptamine psychedelics in 2022 amid sizable pushback from the research and advocacy communities. DEA is also warning Georgia pharmacies that dispensing THC is unlawful because it remains a Schedule I drug after the state became the first in the U.S. to allow pharmacies to sell medical marijuana, with nearly 120 facilities applying to sell cannabis oil.
Well, I was just about to say this article turned about the thing, but it's additionally calling for the production of even more THC, psilocybin, and DMT for research purposes that initially proposed for 2024, raising its quotas for those drugs while maintaining already high production goals for marijuana and other psychedelics. Oops. What did I just flip it? Oh, well, here it is. Meanwhile, DEA is actively conducting a review into marijuana scheduling after receiving recommendation from HHHS to move it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under the CSA. The agency said in a letter to Congress last month that it reserves the final authority to make any scheduling decision on cannabis regardless of what the HHHS recommends. You could read you could go to Marijuana Moment and you can read the full DEA letter on psilocybin mushroom spores, and it's straight from the DEA.gov, dude. So a lot of reading, so enjoy it if you're gonna go and read it. Yeah, that was an interesting article.
Absolutely.
Let's let the computer catch up. Yeah, I think the computer's so old, but Bufo's got us to play with. I wonder if I'll have to turn off the computer the day before so it's fresh and slowing it down.
Yeah.
So this next article comes from us about a popular NFL player that has become very open in his use of a certain psychedelic, and it comes straight from people. And it's Aaron Rodgers says he plans on doing ayahuasca again this off season. It was life changing. And this is by, I'm not sure what medicine, but there'll be something. The New York Jets quarterback said on the Paul McAfee show. And that's by Anna Lazarus Kaplan. He's a handsome feller.
Yeah, he's not bad looking, eh? He's got nice eyes. Aaron Rodgers has plans for the off season, and they include indulging in psychedelic drugs. During his regular appearance on the Matt McAfee show Tuesday, in the New York's Jet quarterback showed his appreciation for ayahuasca, but did not go so far as to endorse it to the greater public. I definitely encourage people to look into it, the 40-year-old NFL star said. I don't think it's smart to maybe recommend it because people always want to blame other people for certain things, but I can speak from my own experience that it was life-changing and has been life-changing, and that it's something that I look forward to doing in some form or fashion this off-season as well. Roger said, I'm sure there'll be some sort of ceremony this off-season. I'm not sure what medicine, but there'll be something.
Wow. I just becoming open about it. The quarterback. So the iconic quarterback who spent his first year with the Jets sidelined after tearing his Achilles in the season opener has long been on the aficionado of alternative medicine and famously participated in a solo darkness retreat last off-season. Rodgers reportedly stayed in a 300 square foot room that was partially underground and devoid of light at a Southern Oregon facility for 4 days and 4 nights in darkness isolation last February. The experience, which came as Rodgers mulled if he would return to the NFL, was trajectory altering for the athlete, and he later made the move to New York after 18 seasons with the Green Bay Packers.
Where did I lost it?
Last June.
Last June, Rodgers expounded on his belief that the radically life-changing effects of psychedelic drugs at a conference hosted by Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies in Denver. I found a deeper self-love, Rodgers said, about taking both ayahuasca, a psychedelic brewed drink from South America, and psilocybin, a hallucinogenic substance found in a certain type of mushrooms. It unlocked that whole world of what I'm really here to do is to connect with those guys and to make those bonds and to inspire people. Rodgers' comments on Tuesday are a retread of his past appreciation for substances on the McAfee show.
I definitely had a major fear of death, Rodgers said last December. Ayahuasca and psilocybin really helped me with that. He added, when you've seen the other side, it makes the idea of death more of a passage and less of an ending, and more so the next chapter of life. Oh, man, I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
What was that, ma'am?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I love it. It's a professional athlete gets honest with his medicine on his off seasons. I mean, that's his time.
Yeah, absolutely. And they should be allowed to. I don't think that ayahuasca necessarily is a performance enhancing drug in any way. It's not going to necessarily make his performance as an athlete that much better, especially if he's not consuming it while playing. But good luck with that. If you can play a football game on ayahuasca, that would be epic. Though I highly doubt it's ever going to happen. So, though it would be funny to watch. So I don't see why it would be an issue, though I know that, a lot of these sports have rules against consuming drugs, even pharmaceutical drugs. So interesting that he's as open about it as he is and doesn't seem to be having any repercussions on his career because of it.
Well, it is. It's 2024 now. It's more openly accepted. And I'm thankful for that. So our last article before our break is something just out of Nevada. Black screen all of a sudden. So it's Nevada GOP governor office discusses psychedelics work group vacancies with advocates and a push for broader legalization. And this comes from Marijuana Moment and Kyle Yeager again. Oh, look at those mushrooms.
Oh, yeah. Those are pretty. Yeah. Nevada's psychedelic advocates say that they have had a productive meeting with the Republican governor's office about the need to expeditiously form a task force under the law enacted earlier this year in order to inform future reform, including the possible legalization of plant-based medicines. About 6 months after Governor Joe Lombardo signed legislation into law establishing a psychedelics medicine working group, members have not yet been formally appointed and no meetings have been scheduled, despite a mandate for the body to issue a report with policy recommendations by the end of 2024. To that end, Nevada's Coalition for Psychedelic Medicines co-founder Joe Dalton and Kate Cotter met with staff from Lombardo's office last month and discussed the timelines of filling vacancies and beginning the work so lawmakers are adequately informed on the issue and positioned to consider additional reform in the 2025 legislative season.
Our dialogue centered on the imperative for legalized access to these substances and collaborative efforts required with law enforcement to enhance awareness of both the benefits and risks associated with them, Cotter told Marijuana Moment. We're hopeful that the governor will be appointing the working group members within the next month. The law Lombardo signed in June called for the creation of a 15-member work group under the State Department of Health and Human Services, tasked with the study and science of psychedelics, including but not limited to psilocybin and psilocin, and overall wellness in the treatment of mental health conditions such as PTSD, substance use disorder, and major depressive disorder, and during the end of a life care.
The group will further need to look at the federal, state, and local laws governing the therapeutic use of psychedelics and then develop an action plan on how to enable access to therapeutic entheogens and compounds that are safe, accessible, and affordable. The law states that the task force must carry out its work during the 2023-2024 interim period before submitting a report with findings and recommendations to the legislation by December 31st, 2024. The governor's office will need to fill 7 of the 15 vacancies, and those appointed members must include a military veteran, experience using psychedelics for post-traumatic stress disorder, a psychiatrist with substance misuse treatment experience, a person with experience treating post-traumatic stress disorder in a clinical setting, a scientist with a background in federally authorized psychedelic research, a tribal representative, and an advocate for psychedelic medicine, and a law enforcement official. Wow, that's quite the panel.
Right. Additional members of the working group must include designees of the state attorney general, director of the HHHS, director of veteran service, and president of the Nevada Board of Pharmacology. Another 4 members will be appointed by the majority and minority leaders of each legislative chamber. In the past year, many legislative efforts concluded with the establishment of working groups tasked with assessing the optimal means of harnessing the remarkable potential of substances such as psilocybin, MDMA. Cotter of NCPM said, once formed, we anticipate this working group will carefully examine the approaches taken by Oregon and Colorado, in addition to highlighting the advancements made by organizations like MAPS to produce a favorable report.
This report will further underscore the imperative to modernize our outdated laws regarding drug policy, Cotter said. Nevada is one of the several states where lawmakers have worked to establish investigatory panels and pilot programs focused on psychedelics amid growing public interest in expanding therapeutic access and ending criminalization for substances like psilocybin, ibogaine, and MDMA. For example, a study group in Indiana's legislature is encouraging lawmakers to authorize a psilocybin pilot project to research psychedelic-assisted therapy for mental health in the 2024 session. The governor of Massachusetts filed a bill in November to create a psychedelics working group to study and make recommendations about the potential therapeutic benefits of substances like psilocybin and MDMA for military veterans. This comes as advocates await state verification of signatures they've submitted for the 2024 psychedelic legislation ballot initiative.
A New York lawmaker recently introduced a bill that would create a pilot program to provide psilocybin therapy to 10,000 people, focusing on military veterans and first responders, while the legislature also considers broader psychedelic reform. Marijuana movement has tracked more than 1,000 cannabis, psychedelics, and drug policy bills in state legislature and Congress this year. Thank you again for this great article. Oh, wait, here it is. It's more. Back in Nevada, while the governor's office must still make appointments for the psychedelics work group, Lombardo did recently announce that he selected a top regulator for the state's marijuana industry. Nevada officials have adopted a proposal to amend hiring standards for police officers to allow job candidates who were previously disqualified for certain marijuana-related offenses not eligible for law enforcement. Is this now? Are we off of the psychedelics?
Yeah, I think it skipped to another article. This doesn't look like the same article.
All right.
Did we miss something?
Well, what better time than for us to go to our regular programming of this part right here. It's medication time.
It's time to pay some bills. Stay tuned for a word from our sponsors, and we will return with some more articles UFO has chosen, making mainstream media news.
back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on the Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network. Actually, now it is 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So take that extra 10 seconds to get a drink.
Perfect.
Open your eyes.
Join us on Psychedelic Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Open Your Eye, our 60-minute video podcast with hosts Kim Cooper and Tarra Simpson. Joint hosts sit down with patients, facilitators, lawyers, and others in the space to discuss their experiences and endeavors working with psychedelic medicine. Tune in weekly to Open Your Eye at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for all your news and information from the realm of psychedelic medicine here on NOK Network. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on our webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including YouTube and Rumble.
Are you frantically pounding away on your keyboard these days to discuss your views, share your passions, teach a skill, or share a craft to the masses on social media? Podcasting is a bright light that can help you reach a diverse audience. And NOK Network can help. Even if you have no experience, NOK Network will work with you to develop your content to air on our diverse network to reach a wide audience, allowing us all to grow together. Podcasts are aired on multiple platforms simultaneously, across social media and streaming sites, live through our network. Contact us and let's chat about how we can help you develop your podcast and join the NOK team.
Peace, news, and views on NOK Network. Patients everywhere advocating cannabis evolution with Kim Cooper and Sir Steve-O. Joint hosts interview people in the grassroots and corporate cannabis space across North America and beyond. Sit down with patients, entrepreneurs, lawyers, doctors, and others sharing their journey with this medicinal plant. So join us for Peace, News, and Views, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where all consumption is medicinal consumption on NOKnetwork.com. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on social media and streaming sites, including Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble.
Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at NOKnetwork.com. Send us a message on our social media platforms or email us at info@NOKnetwork.com. Are you a Northern Ontario resident searching for credible information on cannabis as medicine? No, sir, is established in 2013. Northern Ontario Cannabis Education and Resources is here for you. No, sir, Director Kim Cooper brings you 45 plus years experience utilizing cannabis as a medicine and is spreading the education across the North. Activism, resources, referral, and more at No Sir. Don't be a jackass. Say no sir to cannabis propaganda with No Sir. Find us at www.nocer.ca.
Dude, that's new. I wonder, is that the extra second?
Yeah. Awesome, eh?
We're back from our medication session on live psychedelic reporters here on NOK Network. And we have another set of stories. Let's get at it. All right, this comes from High Times. I like reading the High Times one because it makes me feel like a kid again.
Yeah, for sure. I've been reading High Times since I was probably about 14 years old. So
study shows LSD is effective treatment for anxiety. New research shows that LSD may be an effective treatment for generalized anxiety disorder by A.J. Harrington.
yeah, I'm excited about this article. The results of a recent study show that LSD, the psychedelic drug commonly known as acid, can be an effective treatment for patients with anxiety. The research, which includes a cohort of nearly 200 subjects, found that an LSD medication from New York-based psychedelic biotech company MindMed produced statistically significant improvements in participants with generalized anxiety disorder. The clinical trial for MindMed's LSD-based treatment, known as MM-120, began in August of 2022 after receiving FDA clearance in January of that year. At that time, the research marketed the first time LSD had been studied in a medicinal setting in more than 40 years.
Go ahead.
GAD is an anxiety disorder characterized by an excessive and persistent worry about daily issues. The condition affects about 6.8 million US adults and about 3.1% of the population each year. Women are nearly twice as likely as men to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder in their lifetime, according to data from the Anxiety Disorders Association of America. In addition to frequent worrying, the symptoms of GAD include restlessness, fatigue, trouble concentrating, irritability, increased muscle tension, and trouble sleeping. Generalized anxiety disorder is a common condition associated with significant impairment that adversely affects millions of people, and there remains a serious unmet need for this patient population, said MindMed. A chief medical officer, Daniel Carlin, MD. The pharmaceutical industry has largely ignored GAD over recent decades and has proved extremely difficult to target. For new options, we have shown robust activity in GAD since the last new drug approval in 2004, making the strong and rapid durable clinical activity of a single dose of M120 observed in the trial particularly noticeable. It's very interesting because I know so many people with this condition.
Huh.
Yeah.
The study included nearly 200 participants. To conduct the phase 2b clinical trial, researchers recruited 198 participants with a primary psychiatric diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder, which is GAD. The study participants were enrolled in the trial from 20 sites across the country. Participants were randomized to receive the single administration of MM120 at a dose of 25, 50, 100, or 200 micrograms or a placebo. The single dose was administered in a monitored clinical setting with no additional therapeutic intervention. The primary objective of the study was to determine the dose-response relationship of the 4 different doses of MM120 compared to placebo, as measured by the charges in the Hamilton Anxiety Rating Scale, a diagnosis tool used to measure the severity of anxiety symptoms. The study met its primary endpoint, demonstrating a statistically significant dose-dependent improvement in HAM-A scores after 4 weeks. The clinical activity was observed to be rapid and durable, beginning in the second day of treatment and continuing through the 4th week of the study, with no loss of activity observed on either the HAM-A or Clinical Global Impression Severity (CGS) or CGIS. Another psychiatric diagnostic tool used by researchers.
On average, participants receiving higher doses of the drug experienced a 2-unit improvement in the GCIS score after 4 weeks, with the statistically significant improvements observed as early as 1 day after treatment and continued at all evaluating time points throughout the 4th week. MM120 was generally observed to be well tolerated, with most transient, mild to moderate adverse events that appeared consistent with the pharmacodynamic effect of the drug. MindMed's MM120 is a form of LSD that has been slightly altered to reduce the intensity and the duration of the psychedelic effects of the drug. The company plans to continue research to investigate the potential of the drug to treat GAD, with other studies planned to observe MM120's effect on patients with ADHD. That's interesting.
We are excited by the strong positive results for MM120 and GAD, particularly given that this is the first study to assess the standalone drug effects of MM120 in the absence of any psychotherapeutic intervention. Robert Barrow, Chief Executive Officer and Director of MindMed, said in a recent statement from the company, these promising findings represent a major step forward in our goal to begin paradigm-shifting treatment to the millions of patients who are profoundly impacted by GAD. We look forward to sharing additional study results in the coming months, including top-line 12-week results in the first quarter of 2024, working closely with the FDA as we finalize the phase 3 development program of MM120 in GAD, he added.
That was a great article, mainly because I suffer from anxiety. I also have ADHD, undiagnosed, but I mean, if you read every childhood report card in my history, it's very clear that I should have been diagnosed. And for myself, I actually have been dabbling for the last 8 months with microdosing of LSD, a kit that I purchased up here in Canada through, my means. And I do find that it does help my focus, similarly to microdosing mushrooms, only I find that it gives me more energy. And I find that it does lower my anxiety and helps with my focus on days where I'm just spinning in circles, thinking I'm going to accomplish something, but can't. So it's very interesting that people are having success with it. It'd be cool to see what studies come out next.
I agree. It's I agree. And thank you for being so honest on your regular daily life of that.
Yeah. Well, it's important that we bring awareness to some of these issues, and I like when the articles kind of hit close to home and I can relate to what they're saying, and be another voice to say, hey, you know what, that actually, it makes sense because that's what I'm finding on my own, right? So I'm glad they're doing these studies now.
So this comes from us from Marijuana Moment again. This comes again from Kyle Yeager. New American Medical Association psychedelic therapy codes take effect as FDA weighs prescription MDMA application. Yeah, that's this I'm going to be quite interested to see how the world takes the MDMA. I've talked to some people that are burnt out on drugs. You know, their childs or children's or relatives have misused the drugs in the past. So coming out as the world comes out with these more healthier medicines, there are some scared populace.
Absolutely, because with any drug, whether it be something that's not yet, mainstream like MDMA, even our pharmaceuticals can be abused. So if used in the right set and setting for the right purpose, I think that a lot of these things all have their part to play. But unfortunately, like a lot of this stuff actually was studied many years ago and then put to the kibosh because it was working too well. And now it's coming back up, right? Because a lot of the pharmaceutical stuff isn't working or people are abusing it and are now using these to get off of prescriptions. Right. Yeah.
Do you want to start us out there, ma'am?
Yeah. As the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, considers an application to approve MDMA as a prescription drug, new standards from the American Medical Association have officially taken effect that assign psychedelic specific codes to collect data on the novel therapies. AMA approved current procedural terminology, CPT-3 codes for psychedelic medicines in July after collaborating with the psychedelics-focused MAPS, Public Benefit Corporation. Okay, I've never heard of them, but that's interesting. And the Compass Pathways. Those codes, which took effect on Monday, could eventually be used for health providers seeking coverage and reimbursement for psychedelic therapies pending FDA approval. Having recently filed a new drug application for MDMA-assisted therapy for post-traumatic stress disorder, the new CPT codes are an important step forward to pave the way for its future use, should it be approved by the FDA. Amy Emerson, CEO of MAPS PBC, said in a press release on Tuesday. It is critical that there's a path to cover not only the MDMA, but also the medication sessions, should this novel investigational approach be approved.
The CPT-3 codes are temporary designations meant to provide data on the usage of emerging technologies and services to facilitate reimbursement and support access to psychedelic therapies in the United States. If such therapies receive regulatory approval by the FDA, MAPS PBC said, if sufficient usage is established, they can be codified as permanent CPT-I codes, with valuation assigned for widespread coverage and reimbursement purposes. One of the codes approved by AMA is meant for reimbursements to healthcare professionals for monitoring and intervention in psychedelic-assisted therapy. Two others for reimbursement to secondary health professionals and clinical staff. Currently, there are no FDA approved psychedelic therapies, but that could change in 2024. The federal agency has designated MDMA and psilocybin as breakthrough therapies for the treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder and severe depression, respectively. Now, FDA is considering MAPBC's new drug application for MDMA-assisted therapy following the completion of multiple clinical trials that supported the drug's effectiveness as therapeutic for moderate and severe PTSD.
FDA has until mid-February to decide whether it will accept the application. MAPS PBC, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the nonprofit Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, has requested an expedited review so that the agency would have time to complete its work within 6 months instead of this standard 10-month review. If the NDA is ultimately approved, the Drug Enforcement Administration would then need to reschedule MDMA accordingly. It would become the first psychedelic in history to be approved as a pharmaceutical and to be administered in tandem with psychotherapy and other supportive services. MAPS published the results of a recent phase 3 trial in the journal Nature in September, finding that MDMA significantly attenuated post-traumatic stress disorder symptomology versus placebo with therapy. Meanwhile, in a separate study by researchers at the New York University Langone Center for Psychedelic Medicine and the Center for Psychedelic Research at the Imperial College London, recently found that pairing MDMA with either psilocybin or LSD help people to overcome the challenging experience associated with the use of psilocybin or LSD alone.
Last year, the Biden administration said it was actively exploring the possibility of creating a federal task force to investigate the therapeutic potential of psilocybin, MDMA, and others ahead of the anticipated approval of substance for prescription use. In California, meanwhile, Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill in October that would allow doctors to immediately start prescribing certain currently illicit drugs like psilocybin and MDMA if they're federally rescheduled. In February of this year, Australia legalized MDMA and psilocybin for the use of prescription. Wow.
That's cool.
Right. So, I've come from working in a world of healthcare, treatment centers, and whatnot, and just the fact that these are being already recoded for, like, if FDA reschedules it and all that. I love where they're going here, because that means they're going to have treatment facilities now already going to be ready for it when it does come out. I mean, it's I like this article. I like where the world is going for 2024 already this new year.
Absolutely. I think, again, a lot of these substances all have their place with different disorders and treating those disorders. And if we can do it with something like this, what's the difference really than taking a pill the doctor prescribed than taking these if the doctor's willing to prescribe them, right? And if they work better with less side effects and less long-term having to take it every single day or whatever the case may be, I don't see an issue with it.
Not at all. So our last story of the night, thank you, Rufus, for another High Times article. Can psilocybin treat eating disorders? A new study aims to find out. New research suggests psilocybin can help with treatment-resistant eating disorders by Benjamin Adams. This is something I do not suffer as a puppet and a stoner.
It's actually interesting. I actually know someone who has a child who is affected by a severe eating disorder. And I'm not going to say her name, but her daughter actually is very, very, very affected and like hospitalization affected. So this is interesting. This is something that hopefully she'll look into for her daughter because she's really struggling. So the article says body image can severely affect a person's well-being, both physically and mentally. Researchers are close to understanding how psilocybin can help. Psilocybin effects on eating disorders have been explored since the 1950s, and studies are zeroing in on its ability to help us overcome treatment-resistant conditions like body dysmorphia, anorexia, and bulimia. Most currently, researchers Elena Conning and Elisa Berretchese, I'm sorry if I slaughtered that, are exploring the ways psilocybin can treat ED by its therapeutic uses or therapeutic benefits in combating rigid thought patterns. That's interesting. Koning, who is a doctoral student, recently wrote about her discoveries for PsychPost, explaining the reasoning behind her research. Koning mentioned that in the age of social media, EDs are becoming increasingly troublesome, and that new approaches to those types of eating disorders are needed. A new study, psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy as a potential treatment for eating disorders, a narrative review of preliminary evidence was published online ahead of for Trends Psychiatry.
Eating disorders, ED, are a group of potentially severe mental disorders characterized by abnormal energy balance, cognitive dysfunction, and emotional distress. Researchers wrote cognitive inflexibility is a major challenge to unsuccessful ED treatment, and dysregulated serotonergic function has been implicated in the symptomatic dimension. However, moreover, there are few effective treatment options in long-term remission of ED symptoms, and it's difficult to achieve. There is emergent evidence for the use of psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy for a range of mental disorders. Psilocybin is a serotonergic psychedelic which has demonstrated therapeutic benefit to variety psychiatric illnesses characterized by rigid thought patterns and treatment resistance. EDs have the highest mortality rate among psychiatric disorders, and their prevalence is on the rise. Moreover, conventional therapy often falls short. Researchers think psilocybin might be its key to overcoming treatment-resistant EDs. The current paper presents a narrative review of the hypothesis that psilocybin may be an effective adjunctive treatment for individuals with EDs based on biological plausibility, trans diagnostic evidence, and preliminary results. Limitations of the psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy model proposed future directions for the application for eating behavior are also discussed. The study abstract reads, although the literature to date is not sufficient to propose the incorporation of psilocybin in the treatment of disordered eating behaviors, preliminary evidence supports the need for more rigorous clinical trials as an important avenue for future investigation. Whew.
That was. Where did we leave off here?
Koning believes.
Okay, Koning believes that psilocybin treats the underlying mechanism behind ED instead of looking for benefits elsewhere. She thinks that this could lead to a substantial breakthroughs in the treatment of EDs that can lead to death if they are left untreated. Psilocybin's role in ED therapy. Conventional treatment does not address the underlying mechanism of ED. Instead, psilocybin therapy uses the psychedelic experience to improve cognitive flexibility. A case study describes a woman in 1959 with treatment-resistant anorexia nervosa. After 2 doses of psilocybin, the woman experienced immediate mood enhancement, increased insight into the root of her symptoms, and a long-term weight resolution. Koning explained that it increases serotonin signaling, all the while reducing the activity of brain networks linked to the rigid thinking patterns. She believes these changes can enhance body image, rewarding process, and relaxed beliefs, ultimately catalyzing the therapeutic process. A small study published last July in the peer-reviewed journal Nature's Medicine arrived at similar results. In the study, researchers with the University of California, San Diego, determined that therapy combined with a single dose of psilocybin was safe and effective treatment for women with eating disorders. Anorexia nervosus is a serious mental health disorder characterized by a severe fear of being overweight and a distorted body image. Symptoms of this disorder included an obsession with attempting to maintain below average body weight through starvation and compulsive excessive exercise.
In that trial, 10 women with the anorexia nervosa were given a single dose of psilocybin combined with the support from therapists. Most patients tolerated for short-term effects of psilocybin well and experienced no side effects. Participants were then assessed for a period of 3 months after the psilocybin session. Following the treatment, most patients reported a positive experience with the drug, with 90% of participants saying that they had a more positive outlook on life, and 70% saying that their general quality of life had improved. Additionally, 80% rated the experience of one of their top 5 meaningful of life. After 3 months, 4 participants had entered remission of their symptoms. Psilocybin therapy, which includes psychological support by the trained therapist, was found to be safe and well tolerated for the 10 participants who received treatment in this study. The authors of the study wrote in the discussion of the research, most participants endorsed the treatment as highly meaningful and experienced as a positive life impact. Huh.
Wow, eh?
Right. That was a good pick. Good pick. Thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network and for tuning in our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages as well as our social media sites.
We hoped you enjoyed your update on mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe. Thanks again, Bufo.
Thanks, Bufo. Many thanks to our sponsors, to my joint hosts, Tarra Simpson and Bufos Alvarius for using the stories. To you, our listeners, for joining each week on Psychedelic Tuesdays. Let's hear from the Den Ringer again for a Kirkland Lake on our way out.
Yeah.
Looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see